New Frontiers Learning is the #1 tuition center for the CFA exams in Nigeria. Our founders went through their CFA journey with little or no support of any kind. However, they vowed to turn into reality the dream of every CFA candidate earning the CFA charter, irrespective of their backgrounds, finance and non-finance alike. It is this commitment to support our candidates that influences our engagement of a world-class faculty, partnerships, scholarship and discount offers, our online learning management system, and so much more. Our clients' outstanding results across all levels of the exams every year attest to the quality of our top-notch physical and online program in the last 10 years. That's right, we have been impacting the industry for 10 years and have supported about 2,500 professionals in that time space. Register with New Frontiers Learning today. New Frontiers Learning is the #1 tuition center for the CFA exams in Nigeria. Our founders went through their CFA journey with little or no support of any kind. However, they vowed to turn into reality the dream of every CFA candidate earning the CFA charter, irrespective of their backgrounds, finance and non-finance alike. It is this commitment to support our candidates that influences our engagement of a world-class faculty, partnerships, scholarship and discount offers, our online learning management system, and so much more. Our clients' outstanding results across all levels of the exams every year attest to the quality of our top-notch physical and online program in the last 10 years. That's right, we have been impacting the industry for 10 years and have supported about 2,500 professionals in that time space. Register with New Frontiers Learning today. New Frontiers Learning is the #1 tuition center for the CFA exams in Nigeria. Our founders went through their CFA journey with little or no support of any kind. However, they vowed to turn into reality the dream of every CFA candidate earning the CFA charter, irrespective of their backgrounds, finance and non-finance alike. It is this commitment to support our candidates that influences our engagement of a world-class faculty, partnerships, scholarship and discount offers, our online learning management system, and so much more. Our clients' outstanding results across all levels of the exams every year attest to the quality of our top-notch physical and online program in the last 10 years. That's right, we have been impacting the industry for 10 years and have supported about 2,500 professionals in that time space. Register with New Frontiers Learning today. New Frontiers Learning is the #1 tuition center for the CFA exams in Nigeria. Our founders went through their CFA journey with little or no support of any kind. However,
okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's session. We're excited to have you tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Ayo Akerotimi, and I'll be your host tonight. I hope you can hear and see me. Please confirm that you can both hear and see. Can you? Am I visible?
Yes.
Am I audible? All right then. Thank you very much. I see that. So welcome once again tonight, and welcome to New Frontiers Impact Series. Tonight we will be looking at the crack CBT code. We understand that beyond preparing for the exams, there are certain dynamics and things candidates should understand about the CBT exams. The fact that the exam is now a computer-based exam poses different challenges, right, to several candidates, and we think that you should be aware of that. Of course, we'll be talking about tips around passing the exams as well. So you're welcome once again tonight. So with me tonight will be Oluwasegun Ojo and Ifechukwu, forgive me, Ifechukwu, who will be doing justice to this subject together tonight. So if you guys are here, please could you unmute your microphones and let's do this together. Welcome. Hello, Shegun, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Okay.
Tonight. Okay. All right. Is Ikechukwu in yet? Okay, that's fine. I'm sure she'll be joining in some point. All right. So thank you very much for joining tonight. We have about 90 minutes for this session. We have our introductions right now, and then we have interview for our speakers. Of course, say a few things about New Frontiers, take a few questions from the audience, and call it a wrap this evening. Okay, so welcome once again, Shagun. Excited that you are here. Able to communicate tremendous value. Particularly excited about Shagun's story. Shagun joined New Frontiers as at level 1 as a graduate of law, right? Fresh out of law school, and taking his exam at one sitting across board. So thank you very much, Shagun. Featured him a number of times, and I'm excited to have him do this with me again this evening. So Shagun will introduce himself and tell us a few things about himself. Then we can. So Shagun, the floor is yours. Nice to meet you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Shagun. Like he said, currently work at Kairos Capital Corporate Finance Division. I finished law school around 2021. Don't mind him. The way he said he makes it seem like I don't have a life outside reading. I actually play a lot. I love video games, and I try to have a life outside outside the whole reading thing. So for me, doing the whole CFA program was just a matter of updating myself. I've always been excited about learning finance. I've always been more like excited about economic information essentially. So I did law to just essentially fulfill law righteousness, to put it that way. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell, to be honest. Thank you very much, Ayo.
Thank you, Shagun. Come once again. Excited to have you as always. As always. So welcome once again tonight. Okay. I believe that you can still hear me, and we'll be able to go on with it. All right. So then, welcome once again, everyone. If you know anyone who should be on this call, please reach out to them and let them join us right away. Hi, Ifechukwu. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Sorry for for the delay.
It's fine. Welcome. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Welcome, Ifechukwu. All right. So let's meet you, Ifechukwu. Tell us about yourself.
Okay. Hello everyone. My name is Ifechukwu Uche Oyinlofor. I recently finished my NYSC just this year in June. I completed the CFA level 1 in May 2023. However, I actually wrote twice. So I wrote in November 2022 and I did not pass. But then I wrote again in May 2023 and then I passed. Currently, I work as KPMG as an audit analyst and I resume on the 18th of September. It's nice to be here. Yeah.
Welcome. Welcome. Welcome, Ifechukwu. So it's good to have you here tonight. Okay, so I think I like the mix of the class tonight, and I'm particularly excited about your story, Ifechukwu. I knew when you needed to take the level 1 exams again, I knew how it was for all of us. I mean, it was quite a moment for all of us. But then you took the way by the end, and I kept checking up with you, and you kept telling me how there was quite a difference, and this second time when you passed compared to the first time when you took the exam. So welcome once again. So yes, tonight, for level 1 and 2, we want to talk about the CFA exams, particularly as regards the CBT, what it means, right, for a level 1 and level 2 candidates. I believe that the exam is a whole lot intensive, financially intensive, mentally intensive, intensive on all sides, right? Socially intensive. Sometimes it costs you a lot of social interactions, right? If you're preparing to write the CFA exams. So it's important, to you can't put in all that energy, you can't put in all that all these resources and all that time, and then the thing that messes you up is the fact that the exam was a computer-based exam. That that cannot happen, right? That cannot happen, and we do not want to assume. Again, because we keep interacting with a lot of candidates. I've met candidates who have told me that I knew the stuff, but the fact that it was a computer-based exam was just a whole lot for me to handle. So I want to talk about a few things as regards level 1 and level 2 tonight that can help you, right? Because it's not a game of speed and accuracy, isn't it? So there is speed to complete in time, there is accuracy, your answers must be correct, right? So we want to see how we can help you within the very short time that we have to address it. So if you are a level 1, you are a level 1 candidate, you are not a level 2 candidate. Shami already took his level 3 exam. So Shami will talk for both level 1 and level 2. But if you let me start with you. What would you say were your biggest memories, right? When it comes to taking the level 1 exam, as a CBT, as a computer-based test. What was taking the level 1 exam as a computer-based test like for you? What were the biggest memories, for you? I hope I still have the picture. Oh, I think okay. I think he's struggling with our network. Let's move on to Shaggy. So Shaggy, what would you say were your biggest memories? Level 1, level 2. Separate it, please. I know there will be some common ground, right? Where things intersect, but then as much as possible, I want the level 1 candidates to get value and level 2 candidates to get exceptional value as well. So please help me.
Okay, so biggest memories, right? Taking level 1 and level 2 exams. So for level 1, like I think we're all aware now, I'm a lawyer, right? So FRA was the bane of my existence. I never really liked FRA. Reading it, solving questions for it, it took a while to get used to, right? So I think the biggest level 1 memory for me was just the idea of when I saw my results. If I was really good, I was in shock because, of course, I never really liked it. So I was so happy that I called. I think it was Ayokunle. Yeah, Ayokunle took me at FRA then. I called him and I said the whole thank you thing, and it was just really gratifying for me because it just showed me that okay, even though like my background like this thing, I could actually do this regardless of background, right? So I think it was just that FRA moment, and I think QM too, that made it special for me because of course, low background, I thought this thing was impossible, and seeing the results, those were like some of the good results I had. It was an excellent feeling. Something that I think stayed with me for a while. It's still with me even till now. So imagine having that kind of feeling one day coming to level 2, entry level data science stuff where you start seeing stuff for models essentially. I was confused. See, I know you guys want to relate to this, but I was confused as hell. I'm used to reading, I'm used to writing, but I'm not used to seeing formulas in what I'm trying to write or what I'm trying to read. So it was very tough for me. Yeah. But I think what made level 2 really great for me was my classmates. Yeah, the level 2 with Yetunde, Olamide, Shubumi. Those guys made everybody should have those guys in their class, particularly Yetunde. Yetunde supplied the whole class materials. right? And she was always there to checking on everybody. She was like the class mommy essentially. So she tried to like kind of like made the whole experience kind of like easier for me. So to be honest, there's no CFA without those guys. Yeah. So and I think particularly if you go to class, go to a new frontiers, you'd have that experience. You'd always have people that you would gel with in class. So to class, I think those memories from aside passing with them, aside getting the knowledge, the relationship you build as a result, it's it's impeccable. Yeah. So those are like the biggest things for me, those two levels. Level one, getting FRA out of the way. Level two, having done that level with those guys. Yeah. Sorry, I think I'm muted.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So thank you very much. And I get that we've talked about the network that you produces, it provides, and the SSA. Now, I want you to talk about the computer-based exam at level one and at level two, right? What was what was it like for you? Now that Ife is back, allow her to speak about level one so that
Okay.
yeah, so, because again, the minute you talk about it, you're a veteran. You know, you talk about it, just swallows up everything. So let's have you for level one. What are your biggest memories in level one as a candidate, right? But also, very importantly, as for taking the exams as a CBT, as a computer-based exam. What are your biggest memories?
Okay. You asked for my biggest memories, or
Yep.
did I? Okay. So because I wrote twice, I can say that I definitely have a lot of memories from level one. My first time writing in November 2022, I was studying at New Frontiers. But I think that at the time I didn't have a full understanding of exactly what CFA was going to demand from me. So I came unprepared, and I think I underestimated the exam a little, and that affected, the way I read and the way I studied. And of course, that's how I ended up not passing the first time. And then I had to change a lot of things in level two. But I think one of my best memories will definitely be like the people that I met at New Frontiers. I've made so many new connections, so many new relationships. And I think, yes, you may not end up seeing your classmates the next year, maybe after you've written, but you never know like where the world is going to take you. Like the world is such a small place. So being able to make all those great memories with all those people, I think is like a huge factor of like in terms of the memories that I cherish very dearly in my level one experience. As for the computer-based part of the examination, I mean, the whole exam is computer-based, it's objective. There's no essay section, right? So you're not going to be typing or writing anything down for the examination. It's all objective. However, I think that because it's objective, it's easy to underestimate it. You might think that, oh, because it's all objective, I don't need to practice as much. But I would say that practice is actually a very key part of succeeding in the CFA level one. Um, I think that if you're going to take on such an exam, you need to look into the resources that are available. Of course, New Frontiers is one resource, but once you register for the examination, you are privy to what is called the ecosystem, and that's a sort of software on your computer that would allow you to practice the exam almost in a exam almost in a like a replica of the exam, because they have mocks as well. Like, so the CFA has mocks available in their ecosystem, and it kind of gives you an idea of what to expect on the exam. I would always encourage people to, do the mocks before going to the exam, because it tells you exactly where you are. So I think when you're trying to write at the CFA level one computer based, you really take advantage of that ecosystem. I think it's something I will continually encourage people to do. Just make sure you go on ecosystem, solve all the questions available, and you should be good for the exam, because it's the CFA that provides the questions on the ecosystem. So you know that if they are the ones providing the questions, and if these are the questions available on the mock exams, then you know that, okay, this is probably what to expect on the examination for a computer-based exam. The day I wrote the examination, of course, you might be asking if it's objective and it's online, are we allowed to bring in things for the examination? What are we allowed to bring in? How do I, solve questions without, so obviously when you get into the examination, maybe not so obvious, but when you come into the examination hall, you're given writing materials. Of course, you should come with your own pencil, and that allows you to solve. So you may need to solve some equations, but I think for level 1, you may not need to do that much because the questions are very straightforward. It's the basics, right? So level 1 treats the basics of the CFA. So they are not asking you, some core deeper questions like in level 2. It's just all basic questions. So you may not even need to do as much calculation as you expect, but it's always nice to come prepared, extra batteries, extra pencils, a jacket if, the conditions of the hall are cold or warmer than you expect. It's nice to come prepared. So I think that's like my experience with the computer-based CFA examination. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. So level 1, the fact that you took the ecosystem, solve questions there back to back, probably everything there was very strategic for your own preparation. That's what you're saying. Okay, good. Thank you very much. So FSA, I hear FSA from Shogun, get FSA out of the way in time. I hear, what do we call it now? The ecosystem, treat ecosystem questions earlier. Now, on that day at the exam venue, right? Let's step aside from the exams, the content, and I appreciate that, because again, you guys put in a lot to write these exams, don't you? So the moment I ask you a question about it and your biggest memories, it's fine that you want to tell me everything that you did right, that worked, absolutely, and even the ones you did wrong, beautiful, But let's step outside that for a moment. So when you got to the exam or for the CBT exams, tell me about it, that process. So for someone who hasn't done it before, or for someone who has before, what are some maybe life hacks, productivity hacks that can just save a level 1 student on a computer-based test for level 1?
Okay, so that's a very fantastic question. And I honestly believe I'm one of the best people to ask because, so fun fact about me, I am not very good at directions when it comes to driving. And I knew that might be a problem on the day of the exam. So I made sure to go to the exam venue at least a day or two before the actual day of the exam, because you don't want a situation where you're trying to sort out maybe the address, like you saw 11A or you looked again, it was 11C, you were not sure whether it was Jones Avenue versus Jones Street, those sort of confusions.
So you don't like computer-based driving?
You want to avoid it completely. That's the first thing, to even find your venue. So for me, I think the first thing I did as someone that was writing a computer-based test, because again, you can't come late. If you come late, you're not allowed in, right? They leave you out. And there's no amount of begging. There's nothing you can do about it. Once they've started, you're not allowed in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And automatically that means you've not passed the exam. And it will be such a huge loss after what the investment you've made into like classes and new frontiers and the price of the exam. So of course, a life hack for me or from me would be to make sure you check out your venue at least a day before the exam to be sure that that's where you're supposed to write. Now, after finding out your venue and making sure that it's the right place, when you get to the exam venue, it's always important to take a quick look at your formula sheets, right? Of course, you should have been looking at your formula sheets way ahead of time, but I think there's nothing wrong with a last-minute check. That's something that really helped me. I had my classmates at New Frontier. Some of them wrote with me that day. So we were bouncing formulas off of each other before the exam when we were still outside the exam hall. So we were just bouncing questions off of each other, quick revisions. It wouldn't be a good idea to wait and still be reading like on the exam day.
it's best to leave reading for, maybe 5 days before the exam. Read everything you need to read, and between that time and the exam, just look at your review notes, look at your formula sheets, just quick revisions, because I wouldn't advise you to keep reading on that day. Something else is that make sure you bring snacks with you, right? You're writing a computer-based test and you're not allowed to leave the venue. So once you come into the venue, you start the exam, you can't go outside to buy food from any store or to, buy drinks from anywhere. So I would advise you to come with your own lunch. Make sure you come with extra pencils, extra pens, just in case. Depending on the test center, they might actually give you pencils and pens, but I would advise you to come with your own as well. Make sure that you check your clothes very well. You don't want a situation where you walk into the examination hall with, let's say, a spare formula sheet by mistake, right? So you want to make sure that you look at yourself very well. Okay, I'm completely clean. Because the thing is, you don't want to go there and start explaining, right? So that saying where they say you go explain tired. Nobody would nobody is trying to listen to that sort of thing. So make sure you're, when you walk into the exam hall, you're free of any extra sheets that you have, any spare notes or anything of the sort. But other than that, I think that's about it. Make sure you come with maybe a jacket in case it gets too cold in the venue. You never know whether they're going to have a lot of, for me, it was really, really cold. I came with a jacket, so I was spared. So I would advise people to come with maybe a jacket or something, in case the temperature of the room isn't particularly suitable for you. But other than that, I think those are the different hacks that I have available. Come with your snacks. Make sure you check out the venue ahead of time. Make sure you do your quick revisions before you enter the exam hall, because you don't know, maybe that formula you looked at for 5 seconds before entering might be something that comes out on the examination, right? Make sure that you check yourself very well. You don't have any, loose sheets on you or anything of the sort, so that when you go into the exam hall, you don't have to, start explaining yourself. I think these are a few of the tips I have for the exam. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So Shelly, let's look at it from your perspective, right? You had level one, you had level two, right? So this exam, when someone steps into that, oh, the screen, the keyboard, the mouse, technically speaking, the CBT exams, because for some people writing, it's probably their first CBT exam. For some, it's not their first CBT exam, but their first CFA exams, right? So
Yeah.
let's talk about that leg for level one.
Okay.
And for two.
Okay. So before entering the exam hall, first thing you should do is, okay. So I have like a couple of things I think would be helpful to everyone, aside being sorry. Aside for level two, both level one and level two, right? So first thing, before the exam, CFA will send you a mail, right? Stating that, okay, this is the program we'll be using, this is the program we use to run the exam, right? And they'll request that you go through a video of how to use the program, how to use the whole thing. So it's advisable that you watch it, because
Sorry,
that
Shelly,
program,
when does this come? When does this come?
it comes a few days before your exam, within a week before your exam.
Guys, are you listening to? Did you hear what I just heard? If you did, type in the chat. Shelly, hold on. I need to be sure people are not here doing something else, because I mean, and you won't have an excuse. You see, if they were that generous to have sent you the program, I mean, there's a responsibility for them to do so. But if they did not, you probably wouldn't even know. I mean, would you? You still wouldn't care. You just want to write your exams and get out of there. So, guys, let me know if you had that. I need to know that you had that. I'm watching out on the chat. I'm not seeing any response to that effect. That you will get an email. Jide says he had. Okay, Rotimi says he had. Oluwadamola 3. I need 10. There are 55 of you here. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That means it's 6. So it's 7. I'm going to 10. Eberechi 8. Color only 9. Blessing 10. Good. So watch out for that. Is it coming via social media or coming via email?
But you go into your email, you see it there.
Which email? The one you registered with or the one in your office? The one you use for your
No,
official work?
the one you registered with.
Segun, I mean, I'm sure you know why I'm asking this question because
Yeah.
so, and it's very possible to get bogged down with studying.
Yeah.
If this comes last minute, then it means you can miss it, isn't it?
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
it's
So
always
that
says,
means okay. That's fine. For me, the last two times I wrote it, it came a few days before the exam.
I wouldn't be surprised if it still comes a few days before the exam. But I think,
Yeah.
guys, it only says he has gotten an email where he did a pseudo test a while ago. Guys, please confirm that you have seen this. If not, get into that box, check your spam, check everything, or ensure that your email you registered with Service is still active. Otherwise, you might need to lodge a complaint technically or something. This is why we are doing this check now. In the exam hall, you can't enter that exam as a stranger. All right. Okay, Damola got it too. Good. Thank you, Shegun, for that. Please continue.
Okay, so I think like Ife said, you should get a jacket. I remember for level 2, I made the mistake of wearing what's it called again? A vintage shirt to the hall. Mistake. Very big mistake. So, and my seat unfortunately was in front of the AC. So as I was battling the exam, I was battling cold. I was freezing all over. So if you can, like she said, get a jacket alongside and all of that. So another key thing as regards the CBT is that so it's because it's a CBT, it's a computer-based exam, right? There's every possibility that while you're writing the exam, something happens to the laptop while you're writing the exam. Of
Okay.
course, power won't go off because there'll be a gen. They'll run the gen throughout the course of the exam, right? But an issue may come up. Maybe network goes off or the system crashes or something. Yeah, that's a very huge possibility. First things first, do not panic, right?
Okay.
Now, before you get to that point, what you probably have done is you probably have gone through a couple of questions. Yeah. And there might have been some questions that, okay, you shall tick something, but you're not really sure of what you've done so far, right? That opportunity, use it once the laptop should freeze and you're having issues and you've called the rector and the person is trying to resolve the issue. Don't be resolving the issue with him, right? Go back to your stuff.
Okay.
Look at what you are doing. Get your paper, your biro. If there's a formula you've been trying to remember it on the spot. If there's a question you saw that was an issue for you, start applying to your mind towards finding answers to those questions. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
So now, so when the laptop should freeze, there are two possibilities, right? By the time it's restored, it's either be restored to the original time. So let's say you spent 1 hour 15 minutes into the exam hall. By the time it is restored, you see that maybe it's that exact amount of time that has been spent. So the computer actually took note of the fact that it froze and it allows you to continue from that spot it stopped at, right? That's one. Or by the time the rector or whoever the person is trying to resolve the issue, the computer counts that as part of the exam time. Yeah. So it's one of two things. So for me, when it happened to me, I can't remember. Yeah, when it happened to me, by the time the laptop was restored, it was like I didn't lose any time because the system recognized the fact that I had been like there was an issue, so it paused it. But for a friend, she wasn't that lucky. Yeah, she lost about 15, 17 minutes thereabout as a result. But luckily for her, what she was doing was just the questions she had flagged, she was just thinking about the answers to them. Yeah. So there was no lost time, at least for her. By the time the laptop was restored, I mean the system, sorry, you're going to use a system, not a laptop. Yeah. By the time the system was restored, all she did was just go tick the answers to everything that she had time to think about. Yeah.
Excellent.
So
So she
when
essentially used the 15 minutes. That's what you're saying.
yeah,
So it wasn't an
exactly,
entire loss. Guys,
exactly.
I hope you are hearing. This. It can't get better than this. Thank you very much, Shegun. This is real practical because, and it makes sense because what then happens is you are tempted to start. You are not the engineer, right? It is. I mean, it's making sense to me right now, and I'm thinking of myself if I was in that exam hall, I probably would have joined them in trying to resolve the issue, which is a really big temptation and quite a silly thing to do right now that you're explaining it. Thank you, Shegun. Carry on, please.
Okay. So, like I said, first things first, it's very important to remain calm. Yeah, don't panic, don't get frustrated. As soon as it happens, the first thing you do, because there'll be cameras all over you, right? And you don't want it to seem like you're cheating, right? So
Okay.
the first thing you do is to raise up your hand. A invigilator or whatever will see you and they will come to you, then you explain the situation to them. While they're resolving it, you are doing what you need to do on the side. Yeah.
Mhm.
So next is a question. So this is particularly for level 2 guys, right?
Okay.
If you mentioned the fact that you have to solve all the mocks, all the questions in the most of the questions in the ecosystem before you go face the exam hall. And to a large extent, I agree. Even though I'll be honest, in level 1, I didn't do that because level 1 question bank had like 3,000 questions thereabouts. There was
Wow.
no way I could solve everything. So I did about 1,200 out of the 3,000. Yeah. So, but of course, you can't be like me, right? So if you can do it, of course, do it. The only way you'll be able to complete everything is to start it from very beginning, start it as early as possible. Yeah.
Mhm.
If you're able to do that, then fine. If you're not able to, fine. The idea is you pass, not that you solve the whole entire question. So you don't need to panic before the exam if you're not able to do that, right? So another thing you notice, particularly for level 2 guys, is that um, when they are presenting the questions, yeah, the story is so much that sometimes when they ask you a question, you will not even know where in the story the question is referring to. So you just be lost. Yeah. So that's when you look at the question bank. So if you see questions like that in the question bank and you're not like, hey, would this be a reflection of the kind of questions I'll meet in exam hall? Don't be bothered. In the exam hall, the questions they will give you tend to be very direct and straightforward. In fact, if there are 4 paragraphs, yeah, I'm talking about level 2 guys now, they are vignettes, right? If there are 4 paragraphs, each paragraph will have a question dedicated to it. So if you see the first question you have is most likely referring to the first paragraph. Second question is most likely referring to the second paragraph, like that. Yeah. So you shouldn't be like, don't panic about anything. Another thing is that in the learning management system, the questions there tend to be long and drawn out for some reason. Yeah. The questions in the exam will be more straightforward. So don't use the questions there as a benchmark and begin to panic even before you get to the exam hall. Yeah. Then, of course, I think another thing Ife mentioned is that you have to eat in between. Yeah. So I made that mistake for level 1. I ate bread in the morning. I didn't want to cook. I didn't want to warm anything. I had bread previous night. I ate in the morning and went. I did the morning session. By the time the afternoon session came around, the bread had expired. The morning session, I used all the energy in my body. So I was running on fumes for the afternoon. Like I had a headache. And it was AC, so I was freezing. Like it was like aside the exam, I couldn't even put in my 100% because the environment and my body were never allowing me to do so. Yeah. So it's very important that aside keeping yourself warm, that space in between, like the exams, you have something that you have packed that you can eat. I learned that from that mistake in level 1, and I didn't repeat it in level 2. Level 2, I went with Monster and some snacks, right? And I was fully conscious for the second round. Yeah, so you don't want to make that mistake. Another thing you should take note of is now this has been my experience. I don't know if I can't remember if it was my experience for level 1 or level. I can't remember if it was my experience for level 1, but for level 2, the very first question I saw basically threw me off balance because first off, it was a question in corporate corporate issues. I can't forget. Yeah. And of course, by virtue of how corporate issues work, you think it's no ordinarily you'll be inclined thinking that it's a very simple course, right? You shouldn't have any issues with it. So when I opened the system and the first question I saw in corporate issues, my brain was not processing it. I was already getting worked up. I was already inclined towards panicking because what was in my head was that if the simple corporate issues was giving me issues, how would derivatives and co now look like, right? So it was already beginning to get me worked up. So in such an instance, the approach is the same. Don't don't panic. Just be calm. What you should do in that instance is if your brain is not processing a question, don't bother with it at first. Skip it and go and find something easy for yourself. Yeah. Something that you can resonate with, something that's easy for you. Yeah. So if you do that, what you will discover is that while doing those easy questions, you become calm. When you are calm, those questions that seemed difficult, terribly hard, all of a sudden you would remember what you need to do. So that what happened for me. I saw the question, the competitions, and I was not, my brain wasn't processing, so I left it, right. I think I went to, where did I go to again? I went to equities, yeah, and I saw easier questions there. So I solved those ones, then went back to corporate issues. When I got back, I was even wondering why my brain wasn't processing it in the first place, because it was, I felt stupid for panicking about that question because it looked very simple. I was wondering why it looked difficult at that point in time. So that's something that you need to do. Ensure that um for level two, no, not even level two, level two, level one. If you see crazy questions, skip it. Don't bother with it. There's and I think there's a function on in the exam program that will allow you to flag the question. Yeah. So you can basically highlight the question as something that you'd like to come back to. So you can use that function to just flag it, then come back to it later on. Yeah. Then I think that's mostly it with regards to CBT, right? So yeah, I think that's mostly it with regards to specifically with regards to CBT.
Thank you very much, Shogun. That's really profound. So both level one and level two, right? So some things are the same, some things are different. And I really like the perspective that you brought tonight. Awesome perspective. Um, Issues do occur in the exam hall. That is one thing Shogun has mentioned tonight, and you must remember. Issues do occur in the exam hall. It's very possible. If they do, report to proctor. Just raise your hands. That's the right thing to do. The proctor will know that this is the situation. Will know you need attention rather, and come to you. Then you explain to him this is the situation. While you're explaining what the situation is, focus on flagged questions. You are not the proctor, neither are you the engineer, right? So don't try to resolve the issues, right? Don't try to resolve the issues. It's important that you um, remember that. Very, 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 very important. Okay, I see Feshuku's hands are up. Let me take you. Go ahead.
So I just have something to add. So as Shegun was speaking, I guess like a lot of things started to flow into my mind. I feel like they're important to
That's fine.
mention.
It looked like flagged questions, right? So now you went back to them.
Yes. So
Absolutely.
the thing is, in terms of like mistakes that happen in the exam, like your laptop or rather your computer or your system having issues, that's one sort of thing that can happen, right? But another thing that can happen is, let's say you're writing, right, and your pencil falls underneath. Because the way my exam hall was designed, like we had gaps under our table, so you can see the feet of the person in front of you, and your pen or your pencil can fall and roll under their table or under their desk. Now, in class, when your pen falls under somebody's table, what do? You say, please, can you help me pick up my pen? I am begging you, in the name of God, please don't do that. Okay, if your pencil falls on the ground, and if it falls right beside you, of course you can pick it up. But if you're in a situation, maybe like your tables were sort of like the type of tables I had that had gaps underneath them, I would advise you to raise your hand and tell the proctor that, Proctor, my pencil fell under this person's table. They can help you pick it up or they can give you a new one. I'm telling you this because yes, there are cameras everywhere, but in the CFA exam, the invigilator has the final say, right? If they feel that you're cheating, not only can that disrupt your exam, right? They may start asking you questions or it can lead to some sort of confusion. It could also just make them just say, you know what, this is some sort of, cheating thing that you're doing and cancel your exam.
Yeah.
And once they cancel your exam, the CFA can decide that, because it's a disciplinary case, right? So if the proctor reports to the CFA Institute, what can happen is that they can suspend you from even writing the exam again or even writing future exams. It can be that bad, right? The penalty can be that bad. So if you're having a situation, maybe you're just erasing innocently, your eraser falls and flies to the other end of the room, don't start looking left and right either. Don't start looking for who to, please, can you pick it? Please just don't engage in any behavior that could raise any form of suspicion, right? Because there are cameras everywhere, but the truth of the matter is that cameras may not get every angle, right? So the the camera that even catches may be the camera that makes it look like you're doing what you're not really doing. So just
Thank you.
raise your hand. Raise your hand. There are invigilators everywhere. Once you raise your hand, they are coming in all directions, right? You might even have two on your table, depending on how quickly they are trying to attend to you, right? So just raise up your hand and ask for help. Better yet, make sure you have extras, right? So if your pen falls down, your pencil falls down, you don't have to even look at it. You can just put it at the back of your mind and continue writing your exam.
Excellent.
And also, again, I wanted to reiterate what I said about the ecosystem. So you see, Shegun and I was writing in May and he was also writing I think, prepping for his level 3. So we ended up seeing each other very often. And the thing is, when he told me he didn't solve all the ecosystem questions, what came to my head was, wow, this is one special person, right? And when I told him that I solved all the questions, he was like, oh, wow, this is one special person. So the moral of the story here is know thyself, right? For Shegun, he has his methods of studying and it works for him. I had my methods of studying that worked for me. So we're both giving you two sides of a coin, right? You can choose to solve all the questions if it works for you, or you may choose to go through a different route. However it works, the point is you pass the exam, right? But for me, I solved every single question. I actually sat down because, again, I wrote twice, right? The first time I wrote, I didn't solve all the questions. I solved some of the questions. The second time around, I solved all of them and I passed, right? So it depends on the person. It depends on, just know yourself, know what you're capable of, know what works for you and apply it. And when you're applying it, apply it to the best of your ability so that you don't, make mistakes. And another tip I have is that the exam is divided into two, right? You have the first session and the second session, morning session, afternoon session, and the subjects or the topics in each session are different. So for your morning session, you have 4 subjects. You have ethics, FSA, QM, and economics. So my advice is that when you come into the exam hall that morning, do those 4 first, because those are also what some of the higher weighted courses in the exam, right? So ethics is very highly weighted. FSA is another very strong subject, right? You can't pass the CFA if you fail FSA, and you can definitely not pass if you fail ethics. So for the morning session, please make sure that you revise those 4 topics. And then in the afternoon session, during your break time before your snacks, they give you about 10 to 15 minutes of break. Then you can start looking over the formulas for other subjects, right? That's how I did mine on that exam day. And I think it worked for me, right? Rather than being frazzled and trying to read all the formulas at once in the morning, I would rather you divide it based on what is coming, right? The first morning session, revise your 4 topics. The second afternoon session, revise the remaining topics. And I think that worked for me. It can work for you as well. I took Monster Energy as well for my second half of the exam.
People are now brand ambassadors for Monster. I should write them
That's what
privately.
Shegun and I have in common. But the thing is, for me, Monster Energy had a completely different effect, right? So again, know thyself. This is not the time
Excuse
to
me.
bring beans. This is not the time to bring, certain interesting foods to the exam hall. I took Monster and I ended up like shaking. Like in the exam hall, my body was, I was just vibrating. And it was distracting me from the exam. I'm glad I passed, but never again, right? It's like Shegu's jacket incident where he came with his vintage shirts and he said never again. For me, I'm not coming again with energy drinks. I wouldn't advise it. Depending on you, again, know yourself, and do what works for you. Yeah, that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Ifechuku. Thank you very much. That was profound. So no room for experimentation on exam day. No room for experimentation with finding the venue, with locating the venue. There's no room to experiment with that. No room to experiment with food, right? I mean, even a night before you want, or 2 days before, you want to start checking what goes into your system, right? If you know certain things upset your tummy, you really, or upset your system generally, you really want to stay away from them before exams. And I think you guys have done so well talking about the exams and talking about the CBT and all that. I think before we continue, everybody, let's all type something in the group, something something you heard, right? Something you heard, because it's important that I know that you're getting value out of it. So let's all go. Something you heard tonight that will help you from the FRA thing to locating your venue to tech issues, how to resolve them. We'll take questions. We'll definitely take questions. We have an entire session for questions tonight, of course. So let's go, everybody, to the vignettes, how straightforward they are, and you shouldn't panic for our level 2 guys, how practically every paragraph connects to the particular question. You can almost say that number 1 would be paragraph 1, number 2 will be paragraph 2, and all that. And of course, the next one, and on and on and on and on like that. So something you picked tonight, please. Something you picked tonight. Let me see them in the chat. Everybody, let's go. Let's go. When you've done that, then we'll be able to continue. I need to be sure that there's something you've picked from tonight. Okay, thank you. Ellen Paji, know yourself and understand your study pattern. Stay away from energy drinks. Busayo, stay away from energy drinks. Okay, I'm not sure that's exactly what they said, but again, maybe for yourself, yeah. What will go work for you? Eat well and carry food, Itaolua. Carry food, you need to be clear about that too. I think it's probably just snack, but whatever, it's fine. Checking of venue on time, not panicking on system failure, practice, blessing, thank you. Taking food, Taiwo, thank you. Okay. Faith, come early to venue. Eat well, go with snacks. Get familiar with questions in the ecosystem. Thank you, Kolawole. Going the day before, Taiwo, Oderide says that. Thank you. Raising your hands. Raising your hands when you have any issue at all. You shouldn't just go yourself. You shouldn't go yourself and just assume that everything will be fine, right? That's important. Oh, sorry, please. My toddler walked into the room. Can you help me? Thank you. Okay, sorry. That's fine. So raise your hands if you have an issue. I mean, the pencil, how does someone lose the opportunity to ever write exams because of a pencil, right? So you really want to be very careful. Raise your hands if you have an issue. Check your mail a few days to the exam, right? That's equally very, very important. Check your mail a few days to the exam. Thank you, everyone. You've contributed so well. And I'll take questions very, very soon. I think that you guys have done justice to my questions. You've talked about what candidates should pay attention to, level 1 and 2. You've talked about that. I want to talk about new frontiers. What would you say NF's role was in all of this for you as a candidate? Okay, so I will take all these questions. Charles, I see your question. I promise you I'll take all these questions. So it's fine, guys. Please keep dropping your questions on the ecosystem. I will take all questions when the time comes. All right, thank you. So Shagun and Ife, any of you can go first. So I always like to ask this question. really, when someone makes an investment to go to class, what's the value? What does really, can you describe the role of NF in your life as a candidate, in your journey? Because, and that's, sometimes maybe these things can be overrated or underrated, right? But let's see. Tell me from your experience. Ifechuku, you can go first.
Okay, so I am very, very grateful to New Frontiers for my experience so far in writing level one. It was coming to New Frontiers, I think, was a major part of me passing actually. Again, like I said earlier, you have to know yourself, right? And I know that I'm not very good at just like reading things by myself and just completely getting it just by reading. I know some people wrote the CFA by reading by themselves. They read on their own, self-prep, and they passed. But I don't think I'm that sort of person, right? Being in class and having someone really explain to me what's going on with the formulas, with the concept, it was something, it helped to reinforce what I had read, right? So I would read ahead of class and I would come to class and the teacher would be teaching and it was reinforcing everything that I thought I already knew. And the thing about it is that when I'm reading, sometimes I tend to miss things, right? So you can miss things as you're reading, and the teacher brings it up in class, and you say to yourself, oh, wow, how come I didn't notice that while I was reading by myself? So for me, New Frontiers was very impactful in terms of like helping me reinforce the things that I had read ahead of class. And also, I think another benefit is that the teachers were so available, right? We had their numbers. They were very easy to contact, very easy to reach, very helpful. No one ever said, oh, I can't answer your question. I'm not answering your question today. Every time I had questions, even outside of school, right, I would message my teacher, especially my FSA teacher. I would message him, sir, I don't understand this question. I'll take a picture of the question, send it to him. Can you explain this to me? And, if he's not available at that time, he would always be willing to, schedule time outside of class to make sure that I understand whatever concept I was struggling with at the time. Apart from that, I think that New Frontiers gave me encouragement, right? Because you're surrounded with all these, or rather, surrounded by all these people who are here to accomplish a common goal, right? You all want to pass, whether it's CFA level one, CFA level two, or CFA level three. And because you're surrounded by people all pushing for the same thing, it was very encouraging, right? To have your classmates to ask questions, to bounce, questions off of, bounce theories and, ideas off of. And it was very helpful for me, right? Being able to study with people, because that's another thing I know about myself, right? Studying with people helps me, right? I'm not very good at the self-study thing. So when I'm with people, I'm asking them questions, they're asking me questions back. I'm participating in class, when the teacher says, solve this question, solve that question, I'm really participating. And it's really sticking for me, right? That's when the knowledge begins to stick for me. So again, I think that was like the role that New Frontiers played. Like they helped me, or New Frontiers helped me in terms of like encouraging me to study more. The admin as well were very helpful. They would always ask, if it's cool, did you read today? If it's cool, are you not supposed to be reading now? If it's cool, have you done your mock? If it's and hearing it sometimes when you hear those sort of things, it's encouraging, it lifts your spirits, it makes you think, okay, a lot of people are, really pushing. A lot of people want me to succeed, and it makes you want to work harder. And I think that was something I gained from going to New Frontiers. So yeah, encouragement. The teachers were very helpful, very available, and also just like reinforcing the things I had learned. I would always encourage people to read. Make sure you read. But again, being able to sit in front of or rather sit in front of a teacher and have him explain to you, step by step, formulas and things like that, I think is very helpful. And I think that's what New Frontiers provided me. And I'm very grateful. That's why I came again, right? I wouldn't be writing level two in New Frontiers if it was a bad experience. But I'm prepping for level two now. You guys should wish me luck. Thank you.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, don't worry, I've reserved a seat for you in level 3, so it's fine. Well done, well done. Shago, you've had level 1, level 2, level 3 experience across board. So Tell us.
Okay, so I'm not particularly, I won't. So experience has been uniform across board, right? I think is if I want to start going into everything, I'll just be basically repeating everything if I has said, yeah. And it was particularly important for me because I was fresh out of law school. In law school, we don't do calculations, we don't do models, we don't do economics and everything. What we're doing was just the law, write, and read. So my decision to get into CFA, I knew that I had to take classes. I didn't have a choice essentially. And how I got to know about New Frontiers was I think I met Banji personally some 4 years before that period. And I got to know that he owned the school. And so since that time, I already determined in my heart that if I was going to do the exam, I'm going to do like it with New Frontiers and everything. So without trying to repeat most of what Ife said, in addition to everything Ife said, for me, I think the reason why we're doing CFA in the first instance is to like advance your career, right? And generally, in advancing your career, you need people. Every tutor you'd meet, they are all charter holders. Yeah, so everyone there has gone through the exam you're about to write. So they give you insights, and the insight is usually based on their experience in practice. Particularly when you are doing some stuff like economics, when you get to level two, you meet people like me, and he gives you some kind of insight that you can, you quite frankly, cannot get anywhere else. Yeah. So aside the classes, yeah, they bring really unique insights to what you are trying to do and try to make it as practical as possible. Then there's also the fact that to me it kind of improves your career prospects, right? And this is why you meet people with like minds, one. So if you are doing the CFA, unless maybe you're like someone I know that is just doing it to challenge herself, yeah, that's Lamide in my class. You are most likely in the financial services space, yeah. And financial services is basically a relationship-based business. It's very difficult to get ahead if you don't know anyone, yeah. And the opportunity New Frontiers brings to you is you're meeting people who are relatively extremely good like practically at the top of their game at their various positions in their various entities. Yeah. You get to talk to them, you get to share, you get to have insights, you get to share ideas. I think it's invaluable. Even it's the value it brings goes beyond even the exam. Yeah. So to me, that relationship bit is is invaluable, right? So and it's been good for me because my first job post passing CFA was a direct result of going to New Frontiers. I remember then I was trying to apply to various firms. Of course, when you're a lawyer and you're trying to apply for something that requires a lot of Excel and quantitative analysis and stuff, everybody just tends to throw your CV into the dustbin the second they see lawyer on it. So it was quite difficult at the time. Rejection upon rejection. In fact, it became normal common state for me. Like I remember, I think I was in campus, so I just saw a rejection letter. I was just I beg. I'd already resigned to the fact that post this whole stuff, I was just probably going to be at home for a while. Yeah, but as a result of New Frontiers, I met someone, and a couple of events happened that led to my first job. So the value, essentially, what I'm saying is that the value um goes beyond the fact that you pass the exam. Passing the exam as a result of coming to New Frontiers is almost, I won't say a certainty, but it increases your probability. Because New Frontiers will only do what they can. You have to do what you have to do yourself to get yourself from where you are to where you want to be, essentially. So, yeah. So, any more than, if I say any more than this, I'll just be echoing everything if he said. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Shogun. Thank you so much. And at this time, I'm sure people have a lot of questions, and we're going to take all questions like I said. So if you have questions at this point, please put them up in the chat while I make a quick presentation I need to share an information across to everyone. In the meantime, I'll just allow Shegun and Ife Chuku grab water or tea before I call you. I come back to you to take the questions, right? And then your parting words, then we can call it a wrap for tonight. Okay. Thank you, everyone. So in the meantime, please confirm that you can't see my screen. Can you please see my screen? Can you see my screen, please? I will take all these questions, every case. Can you see my screen, please? Okay, Rotimi says yes, so I'll take that for a yes for everyone. So welcome once again, New Frontiers. And tonight we are on this. So this is the first thing I'd like to show you. This is Ami Saleh, who is a portfolio manager at Lotus Capital. These are Google reviews that are verifiable on the internet. It says New Frontiers is the best tuition center for the CFA program in the country. You get to learn under the tutelage of some of the best finance minds in Nigeria, who are all CFA charter holders, presenting you with an awesome mentorship opportunity, right? NF provides you with a great network opportunity with fellow professionals in the industry as well. Additionally, New Frontiers hybrid lectures. With New Frontiers hybrid lectures, location is not a barrier, as you can always join classes, either in person or online, with recorded sessions available on demand. New Frontiers is certainly the best decision I have made as a CFA candidate, right? So let's move from there. I'd like to tell you about our story at New Frontiers. Ours is a story that is born out of a compelling desire to help ease the journey of every CFA exam candidate in Nigeria. What I mean by that is that our founders went through this journey with little or no support of any kind. However, they vowed to turn into reality the dream of every CFA candidate, and that's to end the prestigious CFA charter, irrespective of their backgrounds. I mean, like Shegun tonight is from a non-finance background, from law, right? And he's passed his CFA level 1, 2, and he just wrote his level 3 exams, and he's passed at one sitting, actually, in level 1 and 2 till date. Now, today, with over a decade of pursuing this vision, our market has experienced significant leaps through the influx of about 3,000 professionals from New Frontiers who are now revolutionaries in various markets of the world. We advise that you join the thousands of candidates and professionals to grow your career by joining New Frontiers today. Here are our founders. Banji Shegun spoke about one of them. We have Ayokunle Ojo, CFA, Michael Anyima, CFA, Olani Ogunbayo, CFA, and Banji Feyintola, CFA, right? Here are founders at New Frontiers. Of course, they are not the only teachers. We have a faculty pool of about 50 teachers, right? So, like I always say, we use as much as possible industry leaders and subject matter experts, right? Because I do not believe that one teacher can teach an entire level and teach several subjects, or even a whole module, a whole topic area. Because again, there are topic areas. Everyone has passed the CFA exam and end the CFA charter, but then there is where you are most attracted to. There are people who are inclined to equities, some who are inclined to derivatives, some who are inclined to financial reporting, financial statement analysis, right? And so we insist on this area of expertise for all our teachers. Why New Frontiers? World-class faculty of leading investment professionals. That's the biggest thing about New Frontiers. We insist on a world-class faculty of only leading investment professionals. I mean, these are people that if you look for them, they will be at the top of what they do, right? 12 years, we have over 12 years in a 13th year of existence, and we are clearly a market leader in this space. We offer scholarships, faculty prizes, discounts and special offers to our candidates. We have class assignments, monthly tests, mock exams to reinforce our learnings. There is a no pass, no pay policy. Of course, terms and conditions apply, right? And of course, there is a mentorship. We have candidate support through mentorship, jobs and career opportunities. Like Shegun shared that he got his first job outside law from New Frontiers. And of course, our impact series, just like the one we are doing tonight, and several others. If you go to www.youtube.com New Frontiers Learning Center / New Frontiers Learning Center. You'll see a whole lot of our resources there for free that will help you in preparation for exams. Now you need to determine which program fits you. We have a regular program and a quick review program and an executive program. Now each of these programs both runs as live, physical live, virtual live, or self-paced program. Self-paced in the sense that you can attend at will and follow your own pace. The classes are pre-recorded and you can use them to prepare for your own exams. The regular program, which is really our flagship program, 16 weekends, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and public holidays. On Fridays, it's just 2 hours. On Friday evenings like this, just like this one, from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. on Fridays. As much as possible, it's always a virtual program because we know that you have a full weekend most times, right? So we try to keep you still in your comfort zones on Fridays. From 6:30 to 8 p.m. virtually. And of course, 9 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. on Saturday and Sundays and on public holidays, right? It's intense, right? And we always ensure that we give the best for you to prepare. Of course, there are lecture notes, there are mock exams and tests, just like in every of our programs. There's a hybrid, the program is hybrid, physical and online. You have access to the class recordings, whether you were there physically and you want to go back to it or you missed the class, you will always have access. And of course, community and networking, just like Shegun and Ifeshuku had mentioned tonight, you tend to emphasize that. Of course, there is the quick review program. This one doesn't happen for 16 weekends. It happens for only 1 month. And this is for candidates who have spent time studying, self-studied, and then they need a teacher's touch. They need quick acts, right? Quick wins. They need to learn quick wins. There is a whole lot coming to class does that you will not find studying on your own, right? So the quick review program is designed for you. It happens on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just like our regular programs. And of course, you have access to every other thing, including access to faculty. Like Ifechuku said, you will have access to all, whether it's with the regular program or the quick review program, you will have access to faculty every single time to be able to speak to them, ask them questions. If you hit a roadblock during your study, they will be able to help you at every point in time. All right. The last program is the executive program, and this is the one we hold for 6 months. It runs a very flexible class schedule, right? Weekend classes, mostly weekend classes, mock exams, hybrid, everything there. You network with industry leaders, and of course, an executive starter pack program. If you are interested in this, you can reach out to us. We'll give you more details about the executive program. Now, the quick review program I talked about in October is going to happen from October 1 to October 31st, and that's for every weekend in October, right? Every weekend and public holiday in October. If you're going to join this class, your enrollment will end on 24th. It's a heavily discounted program, and that's why we call it a quick review program. Sorry. Yeah, my toddler walked into the room. I think my toddler will probably write the CFA exams at some point. So I'm not chasing him out of him, so it's nice. So listen to me, listen to daddy. Good. So quick review program, right? The October classes for level 1 and 2, quick review program for level 1 and 2 will happen from October 1st till the end of October. And if you're interested, please reach out to us on newfrontierslearning.com, newfrontierslearning.com /enroll. You could indicate your interest there. It's 1 month of intensive classes. You can join from anywhere in the world. It will happen on weekends and you have access to recordings, right? So which you can use during weekdays or whenever you want to prepare. And of course, it is heavily discounted. All right. Okay, so New Frontiers also offers trainings for folks whose offices are in the tech business and you think that there's tremendous value that folks will get by joining any of our trainings. This is our immediate upcoming training in October from 27th to 29th. It's usually virtual, right? And it's a Fin for Tech program, right? Finance for tech executives and professionals training. Finance for tech. We say tech executives, that's what we call them at New Frontiers. Finance for tech executives and professionals. So whether it's a coder or a founder or a startup or somebody somewhere who is just a product manager, scrum master, they need to understand finance, right? Because these decisions you make are finance decisions. You're going to be seeking investments. You are going to need to understand finance. You are going to be asking people to invest in you. Um, you are going to understand finance. So we're going to talk about where finance meets tech, understanding financial reports, the metrics, the key metrics that matter, the things that CEOs look at, the things that investors look at when they are saying, oh, is this an investable business? Is this a viable business? Things you should keep your eyes on, right? And of course, building financially strong and viable businesses. And of course, our faculty of um, highly experienced and world-class investment finance leaders will be teaching at those sessions. So if you're interested, you can reach out to newfrontierslearning.com/trainings in plural, newfrontierslearning.com/trainings. The details will be there. Okay. This is our 2024 calendar. The 2023 year calendar. It's the same as this. So in case someone is wondering, we're already running our final program right now at level 1 and 2. This is already up September. So this program is running right now, right? However, at the end of this program, there will be a quick review program, of course, still going to happen here, right? So there's this. But then next year, January, you can start enrolling now and take your career to the next level. If you know someone who should, please share this with them. This is the calendar for next year. We have a January to April class for level 1 and 2, 16 weekends. In level 3, we are going to be holding only one level 3 program next year, and that will run from April 1st to July 31st, right? And of course, there is a third one that will happen just like we're having right now from July to October. So if you want to learn in a live class with New Frontiers, whether physically or virtually from any part of the world, and you want it live, an ongoing program, then this is the time when classes will happen. January in level 1 and 2, April for level 3, and of course, July for level 1 and 2 again. So it's like a sandwich. Level 1 and 2 at the beginning of the year, level 1 and 2 at the end of the year, and right in the middle, we'll have level 3 program. Of course, the executive program will not start in January. It will start in February, right? And run on for 6 months till July, right? That's the program for next year. I wrap up with this from the portfolio manager at Cowrie Wise Busola JJ. He says, my New Frontiers learning experience was extremely awesome. The CFA journey is super tough, but I had people and a community to go with. The teachers were so awesome, and it was such a lovely experience that I used the center for all 3 levels of my exam. I am really advising you to join New Frontiers Learning today, right? These are very valuable stuff. So if you want to join New Frontiers today, this is the number to call. This is the address on the internet to visit and fill up the form there and enroll with us today. And this is our handle on LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn, New Frontiers Learning Center. And of course, this is the number to call Bafemi or Isiaka. They will attend to you. Our turnaround time, less than 24 hours. You will get a response from New Frontiers, right? So thank you very much. So Shagun and Ifechukwu, I should have you back now. If you can, let's take the questions together. So candidates, I would like to take your questions right now. So there was one initially at the very beginning, and I want to go grab that. Just a minute. Okay, so I'm coming. Just a minute. I promised I was going to take off the questions, so I'm not going to. I don't want to miss this. Just a minute. Yeah, Itaoluwa, this one, you said you had a question. Are you still on the call? Are you ready to take a question? Verbally? Hi, Itaoluwa, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Else? Okay, hi, Itaoluwa, go ahead, please.
Hi, good evening. Thank you.
Good evening.
I was asking, the topic that we have, I was hearing something like focus on FSA, economics, quant, and ethics. So I was wondering if we were going to split them by topics. So 5 in the morning or 5 in the afternoon, something like that. Is that what happened?
Okay, so yeah, let's have Ifechukwu, let's do that. So Shagun, Itolo is
Hi.
asking if, okay, I'm
Okay.
sure you heard the question. Go
No,
ahead.
could you? No, I actually didn't. Could you repeat it?
Okay, so Itolo is asking whether the topic areas, the 10 topic areas will be split into 5 in the morning and in the afternoon.
No. So yes, the exam is divided into two, but it's not 5 and 5. It's actually 4 and 6, right? So I mentioned earlier, the morning session is made up of 4 key subjects, and these subjects are, in my opinion, some of the more, heavier weighted topics, right? So, or rather subjects, they are very key to you passing. You cannot pass the CFA without passing ethics. You cannot pass the CFA without passing FSA, right? And those two are in your morning session. So you have your ethics, FSA, QM, and economics. Those 4 are your morning session. And then everything else is in the afternoon session. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much. I'm sure Itolo should be satisfied with that. So I have, hello, hi on the learning ecosystem. Are there other questions apart from the practice questions there? Ifechukwu, you solved all the questions, so tell them. Are there other questions apart from the practice questions there?
So yes, I think that, well, it depends on what you mean by the practice questions. Are you talking about like the textbook questions?
Exactly.
Okay. I think there are, in my opinion, I know that for level 2 anyway, we've solved end of chapter questions in class, and I didn't see I ended up seeing almost everything there in the ecosystem, but I saw, I think, more in the ecosystem. So I'm not quite sure. I can't tell you that, okay, because I've never really counted, right? So I can't tell you that, oh, it's more questions or less questions. But I
Yeah.
think better to use the ecosystem because it's computer based, right?
Mhm.
So if you're using your textbook, again, you're writing, you're trying to mark it by yourself, but with the computer, using ecosystem, it gives you a kind of practice for your computer-based exam where you're
Mhm.
solving the paper and selecting the options on your computer. So I think that's good practice for
Mhm.
for the exam. Also, the ecosystem gives you timed for your mock, right? Your mock is timed. So
Yeah.
unlike when you do your mock by yourself, maybe looking at a hard copy textbook and like trying to solve it through that method, I think you have your timer there. It gives you a very exam sort of, it's sort of like exam
Exam
setting.
simulation. Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I would encourage you to use, I don't know whether it's more or less questions, but I would just say use your ecosystem. Solve
Thank you.
everything.
Thank you very much. And I think you brought up something else. Practice. Guys, the computers you are going to be supplied, I need Ife and Chegun to confirm this, are not your laptops. They are not like your laptops. The keypads are different and they can be hard to push. Ife Chukwu, am I correct? And Chegun as well.
The what?
The keyboards,
Oh, in the exam hall or
yes, yes. They are not the typical laptop smooth kind of keyboard, are they?
Okay,
well,
so
okay. Shegu, go ahead.
Go ahead, Chegun.
I think that becomes particularly relevant when you are dealing with level 3, because in level 3 you have to type. Yeah.
Okay,
But for level 1 and 2, you are you are just going to be using your mouse. Yeah, you're not
okay,
going to be doing more than using the mouse. So
excellent.
that's one. Two, on the initial question on the questions of the ecosystem as opposed to what's in your text, the ecosystem has more questions than what you see in your text. Like,
Excellent.
so let's say you finish a reading at the end of chapter questions, you see about 15 questions. If you go to the ecosystem, you probably see a little bit more, maybe 21, 22 extra
Excellent.
questions. Yeah. So that was my experience level 2, level 3.
Mhm.
I'm not sure of level 1 because I didn't really finish up level 1. But for level 2, I tried to finish everything. The only ones I didn't finish were the ones I was fundamentally not afraid of, but derivatives. I didn't finish derivatives. I didn't even think I started it itself. But
That,
and for
that's a
level
level
3
two.
too. Yeah, that's for level 2. I didn't particularly enjoy solving derivatives, so I just focused on the others. And what I noticed while doing that was, they were actually a lot more questions than not a lot more, but there were more questions than what you'd see in your end of chapter.
Yeah.
So
Excellent.
essentially, if you've studied and you go do the questions at the on the LMS, sorry, on the ecosystem, you've essentially done the end of chapter questions.
Mhm. Excellent. Excellent. So then additional questions as well.
Yes, additional questions as well.
Thank you. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much for that. So then I have another question here. When are candidates allowed to take bathroom breaks? When?
You're only allowed to take bathroom breaks, or if you do want to.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay,
It looks
you're only
like
allowed
Ife
to.
had a bathroom experience, which is smiling.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to have to talk instead. But no, they won't allow you go out until your break period. So ensure your bowels are empty before you enter that place. Yeah, because it can be a problem if you are filled up when you enter and it becomes an issue. Yeah,
Wow.
because you will only be allowed to use the restroom during the 30 minutes break. Before then, you have to sit down till you are done.
Oh, thank you very much, Shelby. Ifechuku, did you have a bathroom situation?
Um, let's just say I had a lot of water before my morning session. I was very nervous, and drinking water, helps me calm down. Not the best technique. I would not recommend. But yes, you can only go for bathroom breaks during that 10 to 15-minute break that I mentioned. So between your morning and afternoon session.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. So Itolo says, how many questions do you think there were for the morning session and afternoon? Do you think some topics had more questions than the others? I think
Okay,
they've been
so
weighted,
the
haven't they?
different
I
the
think they are
different
weighted, aren't they?
Yes, so each level, first of all, each level has different questions, right? So level 2 has a different number of questions from level 1. Level 1 has, I believe, 180 questions. Morning session was 90 questions. Afternoon session was 90 questions. Each subject has a weight, right? So I know that ethics is one of the higher weighted ones, followed by FSA, and then, some other topics. And the way they divide it is, so you have 90 questions your first session, 90 questions your second session. The first session, those 90 questions are divided between those 4 topics or 4 subjects I mentioned. Now, ethics takes up during my exam. I've noticed something because I wrote twice. So I've noticed something. For the morning session, there seems to be a trend of either FSA being the overweighted one or ethics being the overweighted one. So each weight has like a range. It's a range, right? There's nothing, they don't really tell you, oh, it's 10%. They would probably say, oh, 5 to 10%, 8 to 15%, that sort of thing. So depending on the exam you're taking, FSA may be more weighted than ethics, or ethics would be more weighted than FSA, but they would take up a majority of that first morning session, right? So when you're solving it, you would even notice that, okay, majority of the questions I've answered are ethics questions, majority of them are FSA questions. Luckily, the questions are not scattered, right? So they would never title it like, oh, ethics questions, FSA questions, QM questions. However, when you're solving the questions, you would notice that, oh, I finished all the ethics questions. Moving on, the next set of questions may be FSA questions. The next set of questions will be economics questions. The next set of questions will be QM questions. So it's not like the first question is an ethics question, second question is QM, third question is FSA, fourth question is ethics, fifth question. So you will notice that, okay, the first 10 ethics, the next 20 QM, the next 15, that's kind of how it works in the exam hall. So the second session with your 90 questions again, those 90 questions are divided between the remaining subjects. So there's no like way to know how many exact questions will come out. I cannot tell you that, 10 questions will come out for ethics, 6 will come out for QM. I can't say that, but you do have your percentages, and I would advise you to work with those percentages when you're studying.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you. So Shagun, how many hours for each of the session? Morning session, afternoon session at level 1 and level 2. How many hours each?
Okay, so level 1 was I think since if you recently wrote level 1, should be better to
Okay.
should be in a better
Yeah.
position to talk about level 1. But for level 2, when I wrote it last year, I think it was 2 hours 30 minutes per session.
Okay. Per session. Okay. And a 30 minutes break in between.
Yes.
That's a total
Of course,
5
you can finish before the 2 hour 30 minutes
30 minutes.
if you
Okay.
are fast enough, but they give you
That's
that
I'm sure.
amount of
Good.
time.
I'm sure Lucia is fine with that response. If you could level 1, how many hours for both sessions?
So I think it was about 2 hours. Yeah.
Okay.
About 2 hours for the first session and another 2 for the second session. So you have a lot of time to really, well, I wouldn't say a lot of time. If you practice and you're ready, it might seem like a lot of time because you would want to have a situation where you've written the exam and you can go back and cross-check, right? You don't want to be tight on time. So you have 2 hours for the first session and approximately 2 hours for the second session as well. So it's not like there's no more time allocated to either session. They both have the same number of questions and they are both approximately 2 hours each.
All right. Thank you very much. I see one question here. Adenike, does does CFA repeat questions from the ecosystem at all? I'm sure you answer in one word. I do it. Shagun, what do you say?
Okay, so the probability of seeing repeated questions is relatively low. What they test is essentially concepts. Yeah.
Yep.
So what you should focus on is understanding the concepts so you can apply it to whatever scenario is presented before you. Yeah. Though I had like a very weird experience. So for my level 1, I did Schwezer mocks organized by New Frontiers. Then I think the second one, there was a question that I saw in one of the texts. I think it was in corporate issuers that I failed. Yeah. But I saw that exact, it wasn't from CFO, it wasn't from their management system. It was from a prep provider. Yeah. I did a question, I banged it. When I got to the hall, I saw it. The only difference, the exact same question. The only difference was maybe one of the options to throw you off was different. But that question was the same. I was like, wow. I was just very surprised. So yeah, it's possible. It's very unlikely that you see a question word for word from the management system, but just focus on learning the concepts and you're fine. No, not learning, no, learn the concepts on and knowing how to apply it too. Yeah, because you can learn it, but when you see application, particularly in ethics, I won't be honest with you here. For ethics, there's no amount of reading in this life that will prepare you for what you will see in the exam, right? The second you are done reading, just go and start solving questions because you would think you know standard 1 to standard 7 like at the back of your hand, like you know it A to Z, and they'll bring one scenario and you're wondering whether you actually read or you're just wasting your time.
Maybe
Because that was
standard
my
10.
experience. That was my experience in ethics, right? I remember then I solved a lot of at least ethics was the only thing I could relate to it, right? As a law person. So I solved the life out of ethics questions because ethics was the only thing that gave me joy. Every other thing, one way you see one formula, or you see one nonsense that will just throw me off balance. So I was solving the life of ethics. I got into the exam hall. A scenario I have never seen in all my solvings, I saw it there, right? So if at that point I was not familiar with the concepts, I didn't know how to apply it, I'd have been thrown off balance. So it's very important that you know how to apply what you're learning, particularly for ethics.
I think it was a different experience for me.
Okay.
Okay.
So, um, hmm. So did I see word for word repetitions? No, I did not see word for word repetitions, but did I see the same sort of questions? 100%. The whole point of the questions is to prepare you for what to see in the exam. So they may not repeat it word for word, but at the end of the day, maybe they may change the name of the company, they may change the circumstance surrounding the situation, but you would still, if they want you to calculate, your deferred tax assets, you would still see like a sort of thing. And, again, something else that I noticed was that when I solved the mocks in the CFA ecosystem, the day of the exam, and it's not just me. Thank God I wrote the exam with other people, so my fellow writers can testify. We actually saw some questions from the mock. It wasn't word for word, it wasn't the same exact numbers, but it was the same setup, the same sort of maybe table that you would see while you're practicing. So like I said earlier, the whole point of the ecosystem is to prepare you for the exam day. I don't think they are going to like bring questions that are completely different from what you're seeing on your ecosystem, right? So it was that was what it was for me. I remember seeing a question. Okay, so I went over the ecosystem twice. Let me just say it now. I went over it the first time, and the second time was revision. I just did a quick revision. So I actually went over the questions twice. So when I was writing the exam, it was like looking at almost the same questions, but like different scenarios and different numbers. That's what it was like for me writing it. And again, experiences are different, right? Maybe because I had gone over it so many times, certain questions came naturally to me. I don't know, but I definitely saw like questions that had the same pattern as questions I was seeing on the ecosystem. Again, was it word for word? No. But you would see questions that resemble things from the ecosystem. Because again, why would they have the ecosystem if they are going to completely ask something out of the way, right? So you see questions that resemble what you've been doing on the ecosystem. Would it be word for word? No, it's not WAEC. WAEC has a habit of bringing out questions directly from the past questions. It's not going to work like that. But if you practice enough, trust me, certain things will come intuitively to you. By the time you practice, when you see a question, you already know, this is what to do. This is how to solve it. That's just how it was for me. And yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Ifechukwu. Thank you for that. I mean, if you were writing the CFA exams like, let's say maybe 10 years ago, 7, 9, 10 years ago, there were no ecosystems, right? And I've had candidates say to me that, or even teachers, I've had some former candidates say that the end of chapter question itself, right? If you take the end of chapter questions, that whatever you do, just make sure you solve the end of chapter questions. And that's because the questions on the exams are going to look just like that in format, right? And pattern. Again, not questions what were like. I like the comparison she made. It's not why. It's not why. So this is that's clearly not going to happen here, right? But then, if you realize that this is you've interacted well with it and you spend time with the ecosystem, which is an extension of what you have at the end of chapter questions and probably even more, right? Then you will be ready. I think it can't get better than it has gone tonight, and I think we've had a really great time. Guys, if anyone still has a question, you can ask now or confirm on the chat box that we've had a really great time tonight. Right, then I can take the parting words from my guys, and we can call it a beautiful, beautiful night. Okay, I don't see any questions coming. If there is any, I will take. So, Ifechukwu, your parting words to a typical level 1 candidate on this form.
Okay, so my parting words is there's nothing to be afraid of. When you're writing it for the first time, there's that temptation to feel like, wow, this is such a huge mountain to climb. But it really is not like as hard as it seems. I noticed in my experience, and almost everybody you ask about the CFA will tell you this, the questions on the day were far easier than the ecosystem. So you may be solving questions on the ecosystem and you might be sweating, you're telling yourself, am I even ready for this exam? Trust me, you might end up in the exam and it's a lot easier than you expect it to be. That's usually the consensus, right? When you ask people, how the exam go, they'll tell you, it was easier than expected. So there's nothing to be afraid of. Just make sure that you dot all your I's and cross all your T's. You cannot cheat the CFA, right? You need to read, you need to practice, you need to give it time. Like I said, everybody has what works for them, but you need to do it and you need to do it well. Like if videos are your thing, watch the videos multiple times. If questions and practice is your thing, practice and practice and practice. If attending classes are your thing, make sure you go to class, you pay attention, you're not distracted, you're not doing what you're not supposed to do. So that's my 2 cents. It's easier than you think it is. Just do the work. If you do the work, you will be rewarded. That's for sure. So good luck to everyone.
Thank you, Ifechukwu. And before you drop, Damola has a question for you. He says he wants to ask you what you did differently in writing the second time. I remember we had this conversation between yourself and myself almost every single time. And one of the things that really helped was that one of the signs I knew you were going to pass this second time when we had these conversations where you had told me, oh, I did this differently. This is clearly different from this time and all that. So let's just help Damola with that before I take final words from Shegun and go to bed for tomorrow.
So I definitely did things differently my second time around. And how I know I did things differently and I was not just deceiving myself was that whenever I doubted myself in the second half, so whenever I'm studying and I feel like I'm not going to pass again, I would just sit down and write everything I did differently. That was something I actually did. So whenever I feel like doubts in my heart, like, oh, I'm not going to pass, or, oh, what if I fail again, or I don't pass again, I literally sat down and listed like 4, 5 to 10 different things that I did differently from the first time around. So I'll say a couple of them, right? I may not remember all of them, but let me just start. One, during my first time writing the CFA, I noticed that I had an issue with not understanding things in class. So for FSA, I'd never done anything FSA in the past. And being in class and everybody's answering questions, right? When the teacher says, oh, what's income statement? Everybody's hand is up, everybody's interacting. I didn't even know what an income statement was, right? And it made me feel like I wasn't working hard enough. And whenever I felt like that, instead of sitting down and like, okay, try to pay attention and asking questions, I would leave. Like I would step out of the class and just be like, you know what, I need a breather. I need to. But the thing is, when you step out of the class, you're missing vital information. So the second time around, I told myself, you know what, no matter how discouraged I feel, no matter how it looks like, oh, everybody is getting it and I'm not, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do my best to listen the best that I can, right? I'm not leaving class because of how discouraged I feel. No, I'm staying and I'm going to, if I'm not, embarrassed to ask questions anymore, I'm going to raise my hand and I'll ask as many questions as I have because I paid school fees, right? And if it's something that I feel that would disrupt the class, I would wait till the end and ask the teacher after. But one thing is for sure, the second time around, I definitely interacted with my teachers more than the first time. The second time around, also, I was very organized. My first time writing, I wasn't really organized. I'll just read anything that comes, like, oh, let me just read economics today, or tomorrow I'll do FSA. Like, I wasn't organized. The second time around, I had a timetable. Each day had what I was going to read. The second time around, I had a timetable. Today, I'm doing, time value of money. Tomorrow, income statement. Next week, balance. Like, each day, I had a quota of reading. Like, okay, today I have to finish this reading. And that was there was no room for discussion, right? I had a timetable and I followed it. I was very disciplined. Something else that I did differently was that I used videos, right? So I didn't have access to IFT videos in the past, or even though I had access, I guess I just didn't believe in it. Right? People would encourage me and I'm like, nah, I don't need that. No. The second time around, I used a lot of IFT videos, because sometimes I'm reading and I'm not understanding what I'm reading. Because you might be reading and you may not understand, and maybe the next class, you don't even know when your next class is going to, treat that particular topic. In cases like that, you get, your extra videos, your IFT videos, and you look at them. If not IFT, anything that works for you. The first time around, I didn't finish ecosystem questions. I did some of them. I mentioned earlier, I did like half of them and went. The second time around, I answered every single question on ecosystem and I went over them again. So I looked at the ecosystem questions twice. So when I was entering the exam hall, I was seeing it was like solving ecosystem because it was the same patterns, the same reading of solving that I was solving in the house that I was solving in the exam hall, right? So that's something else I did differently. Also, level 1, I didn't really work with people. You have classmates for a reason, right? And I had classmates as well, but I wasn't really working with them. I wasn't really studying with people. But the second time around, I had a group, like we had a study group. There were three of us passed, right? And during break time, we would all sit down. We would, ask ourselves questions, do revision, ecosystem, the CFA database. I think they also have like CFA games, right? They're questions, but they are like games, sort of. So we play them during break time, or it was just something CFA during break time, and we would always do that, back to back to back every weekend. That was something else I did differently. Um, so yeah, I think those are the things I can think of off the top of my head that I did differently in in level 1 the second time around than the first time around. And I think that those things really changed the experience for me. Because yeah, and if you ever feel like you're doubting yourself, you can do what I did. I wrote down everything I did differently, so that it's not be like I'm deceiving myself that if it's cool, you're doing the same thing you did the first time and you're doing it again the second time. No, every time I felt discouraged, I would remind myself, okay, if it's cool, you have a timetable this time. You did not have that in level 1. This time you worked with your 2 study buddies, and this time I really went and attended all the classes. This time you did this time you did that. It really helps you to like, because the impulse is to feel discouraged, right? I'm sorry if I'm going over time here, but the impulse is to be discouraged, especially when you don't pass the first time, right? You look at yourself and you're like, if I didn't pass the first time, am I sure I can pass the second time? You start to doubt yourself. It takes a lot of mental bravery to even say, you know what, I didn't pass. Because a lot of you don't pass and they don't come back, as in they don't pass and they are done. But it takes a lot of bravery, it takes a lot of courage to look at it and say, you know what, even though I didn't pass this first time, I can do it if I really put my mind to it the second time around. It takes bravery, it takes discipline, it takes courage. So I applaud anybody here that is writing it, the second time around or even the third time around. I don't know, but I applaud your courage, I applaud your bravery, and you get it this time around. Good luck.
Yeah. Thank you, Fechuku. And that's why, and what you said is the reason why we have a no pass, no pay policy at New Frontiers. Essentially, what we are saying is with the no pass, no pay policy is that if you've done all that we ask you to do, and we keep our records, we check these things. Did you take the test? Did you take the mock exam for your performance at that level? Did you interact with faculty and all that? If you do all these things, make the most of all the resources in school, and you still fail the exam, then it's a no pass, no pay when you're coming back for the next level. But then we understand, and thank you very much. Very profound, very, very profound tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So Shagun, your parting words. Zamola, I'm sure you have your question answered. So I'll just take you, Oluwasegun, for your parting word tonight.
Okay, so um, on the passing words bit, to be honest, I think my colleague has said most of everything that I have to say, essentially, right? In preparing, you should just remember that CFA is not a game of who is the most intelligent. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's not the it's not a test of how brilliant you are. It's a test of consistency. Like
Mhm.
how consistently can you do the things you need to do to get yourself from where you are to where you want to be, essentially. So uh if there's a situation whereby you've written the exam and you didn't pass, it's not you shouldn't feel bad, essentially. You should just pick it up and try again. I know this feels hypocritical coming from someone that may not have that seems to have passed it from first and second, but I've had experiences in time past where I didn't do well in something I had to just do it again. Right. So I think that's mostly it. Other than that, I'll most likely just be echoing if his words. Yeah, so all the best to everyone here. I'm sure you guys will do well. I think with this, you're all well equipped to do what you need to do to get the best from the exam. And please have fun while doing the exam. Don't carry it on your head. Don't be. If you need to rest, rest. If you need to sleep, sleep. If the exam is tomorrow and you're doing overnight into the exam, so I don't know. Ife's experience is very different from mine, right? So me, when I'm going to the exam on, I don't take anything that has to do with that exam with me. I don't revise during breaks. I don't read anything that day. Because for me, the night before, once 12 midnight has reached, no new information can come in, right? Even revising is pointless. Anything revising is good to scatter what is already there. So I don't even bother. I don't take any materials. I don't do anything. I just go to the exam hall, do what I need to do, and then I leave. And sure, before you go to the exam hall, sleep as much as you can so you have a clear head. Yeah, you don't want a situation whereby you're all sleepy, your eyes foggy, you are tired, and you go there and you're sleeping. You don't want that to happen. I had that experience in the second half of my level one, which is why I still feel like level one was more of a miracle than my own doing. Because second half I was tired, I had a headache, and I was literally sleeping off. Yeah. There's a point in time where I had solved three questions and was practically unconscious, right? Because when I was going over, when I had finished and I was going over, I was wondering when I solved these questions. You don't want that one to happen to you in the exam, so you need to be as well rested as possible. Yeah. So I think that's mostly it, guys. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Shemu. I see Ipechukwu's on up. Let me take that then. And call you there after that.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine,
I feel
please.
like
Please.
but something else I wanted to just say finally is I wouldn't encourage you to, that thing where you write the exam, all of you come out, somebody be like, what did you put for number one? I got A. This was say, oh, no, I got C. I would advise you to stay away from that. One, not only is
Yeah.
it, out away from it's, you can end up penalized. That's one. You're not supposed to discuss the questions, right, that you get in CFA outside of the CFA hall, right? You're not even supposed to go online and be like, oh, this question, that first of all, you're not supposed to do that. So when you come out of the exam hall, please, I beg you in the name of God, don't come out and be like, what did you get for number one? What did you get for number two? This question, this. First of all, is against the rules. I feel like I need to say that because it's a typical habit in
Yeah.
universities and secondary school. When you write the exam, everybody comes out, what did you put for number one? Hey, what did you put for 20? I got C, I got A. Please don't do that. It's against the rules. That's one. Two, it can also be very it can be very discouraging. When I wrote level one the second time around, I remember coming out. We had walked away from the exam center, and some people came out and they were talking about it, right? They were like, oh, for this question, remember that question with 250,000, and they were like, I should add this and that. And I couldn't remember that question. I couldn't remember seeing that question in the example. When I came out, I was gingered. I was like, okay, I killed this exam. I know I'll pass. Once I started hearing the discussions that this person got C, meanwhile, my own answer was A, this person got B. My answer is, and the thing is, this is not like these people are, not intelligent. They are in your class, you know that this one is hot-headed. Or if he says the answer is A, it must be A. I remember coming out of the exam hall, and even though I was so confident, once I started hearing those things, I felt so discouraged. I almost had a panic attack. I was almost at the verge of tears because I thought to myself, I can't fail again, right? It can't possibly, I did everything differently. I was so discouraged. I was so sad. Oh my God. Like this person said the answer is A, I put C. This person said, literally, then I started thinking about all the exam questions that I had done. Okay, what did I put for number 25? What did I put for this? Once you come out of the exam hall, please remove your head from it though. You cannot change anything, right? What is done is done. Don't get involved in too much talk. Don't anything discouraging, stay away from it. Just if you're a Christian or a Muslim or whatever you do, whatever religion you follow, you pray or you just do something that gives you peace and just forget it, right? Because at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do again. You've written the exam, you cannot change the result. So just please be at peace. Don't be like me, because for the remaining time before until the results came out, my head was just replaying and thinking and thinking and thinking. You don't want that to be you. it can give you gray hair. I don't know. I'm lucky that I don't have gray hair yet, but the way I was thinking and really like overthinking it after the exam, I'm surprised that I'm not an old lady speaking to you now, but we thank God for that. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. Come out of the exam hall, you're done. Don't think about it again.
Yeah. Thank you, Fechuku. No need for post-mortems. You had that. Don't do post-mortems after exams. And the reason why it's always like that is because you were entirely immersed in those questions, right? The person who saw those questions was able to pick up that part, maybe because he had a bit of a struggle with it. But when you are immersed and you have the answer and you have moved on, it's not likely that you will be remembering. I mean, 180 questions in all. All right. So in all, I love the contrast from tonight. If you could say I couldn't remember a single question I saw there. I mean, in all, I love the beautiful contrast tonight from Shegun, who are reading at one sitting across level 1, 2, and now just to be level 3, and Ifechuku, who took the bull by the horn and say, no, I'm doing this differently, right? This time around. And beautiful success stories here tonight. And I'm sure yours would be the next. Thank you everyone for showing up tonight. Oh, thank you, Kola, for the feedback. Kola Ole says, thank you so much, Ifi Shego and I. You guys gave me a lot of insight tonight. Thank you, Kola Ole. That was great feedback from you. The discussion has been very instructive. Thank you, guys. Thanks for rating me. That was good feedback as well. Yeah. Yeah. So, of course, the chat room is buzzing with thank you. Thank you so much, Ifechuku, for showing up tonight. Thank you again, Oluwasegun, for showing up tonight. And Ifechuku, I'm sure that I'll bring you back again to come talk to my level 2 folks very, very soon, right? So thank you so much. Thank you everyone for showing up. Thank you everyone. For those who will be in class tomorrow, let's go grab a good night's sleep. You have a long weekend once again. And of course, this video will be up on youtube.com/at New Frontiers Learning Center, youtube.com/at New Frontiers Learning Center. This video will be up in less than 24 hours. So please feel free to use it. Feel free to share with as many people. Feel free to check out the resources there. And of course, please follow us on LinkedIn at New Frontiers Learning Center so that you can be kept abreast of all our programs and wonderful section like this. Thank you so much for showing up tonight. Obafemi and Mr. Isiaka, thank you for putting this together. It's been an exciting time tonight. Good night, everyone, and God bless you.